Welcome everybody to the last episode of the year. This is AZcrypto here with my partner, MrFOMO. MrFOMO, we left the best for last. Thanks to everyone that's watched our first few episodes. We cannot leave the year without talking about the big dog. And we're talking about crypto. Obviously, we need BTC. And it's a really, really important thing to talk about. Everyone should be accumulating BTC. We're going to go through some basics, some myths, and some information that you may or may not be aware of, and just give you some perspective. And I actually bought BTC today, just a little bit, as I was doing research for this show. I'm like, I got to get a little more. We'll talk about why some people are buying now versus not also, but give us a basic rundown of what BTC is for people that are new to the space.
Little technical jargon, little rundown. First and most widely used cryptocurrency used for peer-to-peer transactions. It's an independent form of money. It's globally transferable, minimal fees compared to wire transfers, or it's much cheaper than moving something like gold. It's faster, cheaper, more secure than others. It's immutable. Meaning that it's computer code, so it can't be changed by any one person, and it can't fail. It doesn't have one central point of failure. The protocol follows a democratic process. Miners are allowed to vote on how or what changes are made. Its value is derived from its technology breakthroughs, its cap supply, its powerful network effect. It's deflationary. Let's see what else. And it's compared by many to gold. It's called digital gold. And so as it scaled, smaller transactions became much harder. And that it's a lot like gold in that way. Gold, you couldn't just carry around a bar of gold with you and shave off a little bit whenever you wanted to buy something. Smaller transactions are much harder with value or stores of value like that. But the basics, it's decentralized, it's distributed, it's transparent, peer-to-peer, permissionless. It's not tied to your name, it's tied to an address, and it's censorship resistant, meaning no government can mess with it, ban it, get in the way of it.
Many have tried and have failed.
Continue to try, but it just doesn't work. And if I had to just kind of put it in layman's terms, I'd say think of it as your bank. You think of Bitcoin as an online ledger that's distributed to tens of thousands of powerful computers all over the world, and it keeps a ledger the same way your bank does.
And you mentioned the term store of value. It's the number one store of value of any asset the last 10 years. And granted, it pretty much came from nothing, but one thing that when I first got into crypto, people asked me was, well, you're investing money in crypto. What happens if BTC goes to zero? And that myth has been around a lot less now, but some people still say, we try to talk to people about crypto and they're like, well, BTC could go to nothing just like that. And that's not true. So we're going to go over some stats that people may not be aware of. First of all, 20% of the supply is probably gone forever. That's because they are held in wallets and those keys have been lost. So the likelihood of those being open now are pretty much zero. So 20%, think of it as being burned. It's gone. So that can't be. Did you know, and I know you know, but 21 million is the cap. That's all that can ever be produced. If you go to some of the alts that we discussed on the draft, except for some like Eagle, they're well above 21 million. 21 million for the number one digital asset in the world, as people are getting into assets, is not that much. It really isn't, if you think about it. And I was sharing with you before we recorded I got a funny text. I got a picture of a conference from 2013. I sent this to you. There's one person in the room and he's trying to educate and getting people to get excited about Bitcoin. You want to take a guess at what the price of BTC was on that text that I sent you? Now, 2013, I understand, was a while ago, but it's not like it's 30 years ago or 25 years ago, right? It was, within modern history. What was the price?
I know what we started at, and that was at like 8/100ths of a cent. but I don't know what it was on that day. And what
$100.
2013,
100
bucks.
100
100
bucks.
bucks.
That was 3 years in. Okay. That was
Now
3
people
years
are
in.
complaining that it's what, 47, 48,000.
Yeah, and me and you watched a video. We'll talk about this guy because he's a great professional, George from Cryptos R Us, and one of his old videos from about 4.5 years ago during the last bull run, and you saw BTC. Well, it was struggling to get above 10,000. It's like if BTC was right around 10,000, let's be honest, how many people would find a way to get one right now? I know I would.
Yeah,
I'd find a way to do it.
it's
Whatever.
I mean, in probably 4 or 5 years, we'll be saying the same thing. Oh, if BT,
that's the thing. When we watch,
how many people would be trying to get one right now?
when we watch this video, and hopefully we're still doing the show 4 years from now, we're going to look back. I think we're struggling to get back to 50. We're 47, 48. We're going to look back and say, whoa, it was below 100K. It was below 200K. Why weren't we accumulating more? I mean, it's that simple. So one, like I said, there's only going to be 21 million ever made. Now, as you may or may not know, we have a BTC halving, and the next one's going to be in 2024. We don't know if we're in, well, we know that the cycle looks like it's extending. We have not had a top off. We don't know how long this cycle is going to last. We don't know if the cycles have been broken. You made a great point off the top podcast that just because we've had 3 previous cycles doesn't mean these cycles are going to necessarily continue. So we can't tell you guys that are listening exactly what the price is going to be 3-4 years from now. But could you tell the audience what is the likelihood the price is going to be below 50K 4 years from now?
The likelihood that it would fall that far is that at that point in time is probably pretty low. And a lot of this is speculation because it's a speculative asset. But when you talk about institutional money, you've got a lot of people coming in. And we talked before the show about guys like Michael Saylor that are accumulating more Bitcoin than, countries that have adopted Bitcoin as legal tender. With that kind of strength coming into the asset, I have a hard time believing that it's going to fall below where we are right now. And right now, I think maybe a floor is, I mean, if I was really bearish, I'd say it's all the way back to 30 where it got to during the summer. But I would say that it's probably much higher than that now with all the institutional money that's coming.
I've seen TA guys, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. We're not TA experts, but the ones I follow, they're saying 29.30 is worst case, and even that is kind of far-fetched. It would take a pretty big sell-off. It would take a crazy world event. We just,
I mean, and no market is immune from those black swan events.
No.
It could happen, but I still don't see it falling much below that because of some of the reasons that you mentioned before, and also the institutional money, the retail investors that have really strong hands that aren't selling anytime soon. There are a lot of different things that fall into that, but zero, not a chance.
90%, get this, already in circulation.
Right. 90% already minted. That happened a couple of weeks ago.
So we're about to hit New Year's Eve here in a little less than an hour and a half. What do you think the price was 10 years ago on New Year's?
8 cents.
$4.25.
Wow.
So are we going to say it's going to do that type of jump 10 years from now? I don't think so. There's a lot of spot trading. There's a lot of people use. We're going to talk about just briefly why alts kind of follow BTC. BTC is, the big dog, and this is a dominant BTC market, but it's probably not going to go up that fast. But the reality is the more people that get in and the more people that use it as a store of value versus like a spot trade, because I think that's going to start going away little by little. There's always going to be leverage bets, but I have a feeling, gut feeling here, in 4 years, a lot more people are going to be buying BTC for gifts. I talked to a friend and someone gave his daughter, a young daughter, BTC as a gift. Instead of giving them money for a savings account, they got BTC. And you're going to start seeing a lot more of that happen. And I think people are going to start holding on to their BTC.
I don't know what happened. I asked for cryptocurrency in our gift thing at work, and nobody gave me cryptocurrency. My Secret Santa person wasn't into cryptocurrency yet.
No,
I
I
asked
don't
for
think
it. They didn't give
I
it to me.
don't I don't think so. Maybe her son. I don't want to say it. I was going to say maybe her son, possibly, but I don't want to get. And it is a little bit of a generational thing. A lot of people in crypto are below the age of 40. Not everyone, but a significant amount. Um, but you do have some savvy investors now that are jumping in. You know what I mean? Um, in the past year, so many people have gone in, just as us. We haven't been in the space for 10 years. We're not going to lie to you
Right.
guys. We're learning every day. But the more, and you mentioned Michael Saylor, the more you read about this, the more it's crazy that people are not accumulating more. Michael Saylor did something pretty significant. And if you don't know, he's the leader of MicroStrategy, a very successful person, self-made. He wasn't just given the money to start his own company. He bought 1,914 BTC for 94 million over the past 24 hours. He owns one of every 170 BTC. If you ever watch a interview with Michael Saylor, he does not plan on selling anytime soon. In fact, he wants to find a way to get more for his company and also get more for himself. He's accumulating in two ways: one for himself, one for his company. And I have a feeling in 10 years, he's going to be more of a brilliant person.
And I
That
think more people will
it's going
follow
to be
his
like
lead.
you
He
know,
he keeps
go ahead.
leading those rounds of funding that where it's not even his money or the company's money. He's getting outside investors to come in, throw money at him, and allow him to buy the BTC and custody it, or shareholders in his company to buy the BTC. He's not even doing it himself. It's a brilliant strategy.
And some of you might be asking, well, wait a minute here. In March, we were well above 60K. Recently, in the past couple of months, we got to 69K. We're down now. We're struggling to get to 50. Why is that? Well, there is a lot of manipulation in the market, and we can't tell you exactly how that's happening. If you go on the internet, there are a lot of whales, there are miners, there are a lot of rumors that some of the brokerages, finance, maybe, who knows, are involved in some of that. I mean, there's definitely some, because it's not regulated, there are some behind the door things going on. But I feel like as time goes on, and you can elaborate on this, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to keep BTC down. I think at some point, these games where BTC goes down $10,000-$15,000 in 2 months, or down 15% in a month, going to be very hard to pull off.
Well, I
Because
think for reasons we already mentioned, the strength of the money that's going to be invested. I mean, how many people do you see on the street peddling their gold or running into this place or that place with a bunch of gold coins trying to sell it? I think the same thing is true of Bitcoin, and will become more and more true as the years go on. And just like the traditional stock market, the strength and the strength enters as the money enters, and the volatility starts to disappear, or at least the wild volatility that we see with BTC and some of the altcoins. You know, money is strength in the market. So, and one question that I get all the time is, what is mining? How do you dig money out of the internet?
no shovel, though.
No, yeah, no pick, no shovel. What do you got? Your computer. How does your computer dig money out of the internet?
Well, the reality is, unless you have a ton of money, you're not mining at home. You got a lot of
Solar
money.
panels.
You got a lot of money. So for most of you that are listening to this, you're not going to be a miner. There were days where people could mine BTC at home. That's not happening now. So unless you have millions of, and if you have millions of dollars, just buy BTC, but unless you have millions of dollars to start your own mining, you're probably not going to do it. I did want to talk about something really quickly, and you can talk about this. Why does BTC affect the alts so much? Because we talked about last time, trying not to buy an alt when BTC was pumping hard, because there's likely going to be a retrace because of manipulation. Could you give our listeners a little bit of information, just briefly? Why does BTC control the market so much?
Well, like you said earlier, the BTC is the big dog. It's of the total market cap of cryptocurrency. I think it's close to 50% now. I mean, it was well over 50% earlier in the year. And so when that kind of strength exists in the market in one spot, it tends to sort of be the canary in the coal mine, or it tends to lead the market when people see that kind of strength failing, they start to jump out of everything else. And like we said before, it's a store of value. So people are going to be taking their profits from other coins, the altcoins, and storing it into BTC.
That's a good. When BTC drops, they might take some of the profits they have, put it. And also, some people are selling BTC to put in alts. It's like a big game. The alts are more for the short term. BTC is your long term. Think of it as your big retirement fund. And we'll talk about, it's important to have stable coins. We'll talk about that on next episode. That's also really important to have in your portfolio. But if right now you don't have any BTC, throw in 10 bucks. I mean, we're not financial experts, but it might be a good idea to throw in 10 bucks just
or
to get
use the code at the end and get yourself
yeah, we got two codes.
free BTC.
Unfortunately, it's going down to 4.75% yield, but still way better. And we'll get into some of the exchanges and brokerages in another episode. But we do have some codes for Voyager. So if you haven't jumped in yet, good time to think about getting into BTC. We'll talk about USDC probably beginning of next year. But
before we get done,
yeah.
2 to 3 sentences. Why would you tell someone to invest in BTC?
It is the greatest asset in our generation. In 10 years, if you don't have any, you will really regret not getting any. And we will look back at this video and be astonished that BTC was under 100K. Sometime in the future, I'm not going to give you a date. I strongly, strongly believe, based on the fundamentals and all the data, we will see a $1 million BTC in our lifetime. Mm-hmm. So the question is, how much of a BTC do you want to own at that point?
Yeah, you do your own calculations when you speculate what you think it'll be worth down the road. How much of a BTC or how many BTC do you want to have? For me, it comes down to the decentralization and the distribution. The idea that the banking systems have failed us so many times and we've had to bail them out with taxpayer dollars. The fact that your money is in the bank, that they'll loan that money out in a practice that they call fractional banking. So if we all went down to the bank and asked for our cash, we wouldn't be able to get it. They wouldn't have enough for all of us, right? But when you talk about a store of value, you talk about Bitcoin, you don't have that central point of failure. You don't have humans messing it up. You don't have them shaving off, interest or charging you monthly fees or anything like that. Or they won't tell you that you can't take a loan on the money that you have stored in that. It's an asset that you can take a loan against. So for me, it's the lack of human error and human corruption, I think.
That's a great point. We'll leave you with this right now, just to give you guys a quick market update. We're looking at $47,239 right as we speak. We're up a little over 1.2%. So if some of you just got in, you got a little worried, it's like, well, we were over 50 and we actually got to 45.9 about a day ago. Don't worry, this is actually very normal. And hopefully, we don't know for sure, there's a big uptake in January coming. I think so. Again, we're not financial experts, we can tell you for sure, but it's, in our opinion, never a bad time to start accumulating BTC. So,
right.
And unless you want to wish I want to wish our new viewers a happy new year, if nothing else.
Yes, happy new year. Happy one of your New Year's resolutions should be financial independence or financial success at least. And that's investing in BTC.
Absolutely. And we'll see you guys. This is just the beginning for our show. We'll see you guys a lot in the year 2022. Happy New Year, guys, and have a great holiday.